All right. Welcome to the Digital Roundtable. It is Wednesday, June 5th, and I'm going to make a switch to my background here real quick. Make sure you guys know exactly where you are. There we go. And we have, interesting weather patterns going on, a lot of lightning storms in Texas, a lot of outages back and forth every day. And summer is coming up. It's going to be super hot. And we have a great guest today, representing a company that is trying to solve the problem of the climate. And we're looking forward to that. But before we get rolling, we're going to ask our own John Sibley Butler, who got inducted into the Austin Technology Hall of Fame last night with Michael Bell, to play some music.
Now, just about a year ago, set out on the road, seeking my fame and fortune, y'all, looking for a place to go. It got rough, but they got tough. I guess you know the song. Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again. You know the man from the magazine said I was on my way. Somewhere I lost connections, ran out of songs to play. Came into town on a one-night stand. I guess the plans fell through. Lord, I'm stuck in Lodi again.
All right. Thank you, John Butler.
You're welcome. That was requested by our guest.
Thank
all
you.
right. All right. All right. Well, John, the world continues to move fast. A lot of things going on. Last night was an epic evening for you and many others. Would you like to give us a little recap and how you're feeling about it this morning?
Well, I feel good about it. It came as such of a big surprise. But what was good about last night, we had Bobby Inman there, of course, who helped us with Austin and bringing MCC here. We had the head of the Austin Technology Incubator, Laura Kilcrease, and it was a lot. It was good to see a lot of people and to just think about what they were talking about. I think I was around the table every time, so it was good to be seen as a strategist for what we call the Technopolis in Austin, Texas. And as I said last night, you don't celebrate us, we celebrate all the great jobs that we have done and all the wealth that we have created. So, and thank you for coming, Andrea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have not missed it for the world. It was great. Great evening. Some 300 best friends showed up, and it was very, very nice. It was very nice, very well done, very classy.
Thank you.
And you did a great job recounting all the folks that help out along the journey. So real quick, Johnny. I know that digital CNBC's Disruptive 50 is coming up, and we're planning Digital 360 Summit in September, and you're going to be delivering a keynote. And what's your take on where we are at? I feel a lot of new energy, a lot of acceleration, startups everywhere. What's happening?
Well, it's interesting. I've got a lot of carbon capture startups. I had two to contact me this morning. And one from Las Vegas, and talking about what they're doing, and very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, the new technologies from CNBC would just be absolutely wonderful. A lot around AI, a lot around taking of jobs in the future as we find more jobs. So the excitement is very, very. It is there for the technologies. When I say the technologies, I mean not only those things that help us in the internet and et cetera, but just how people plan to work in the future. So, for example, if we come up with a better way to to do home enterprises, to me, that's the innovation, and that's, of course, is a technology. The other thing, of course, is the wars and conflicts that's going on in the world today. And when we look at that, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in Israel in the Middle East, then and then on top of that, of course, is the election. And so all of these things are coming to a head. And I noticed yesterday that the border was placed in the formula. That is, the president came up with a new policy for the border right before the election, and it's just real interesting. And but the world has always been interesting. And I guess the last thing that I'll mention is the resolve of people. You know, you think we think that as Willie Nelson would say, you know, the world's going to hell, and we're sure going to miss it a lot. But you know, you think that it is, but then on the other hand, the resolve of the people is very interesting. But as I was informing people on a podcast the other day, it starts with business enterprises, job creation, and of course, we will have a lot of humanitarian kinds of things to deal with. Remember, we have two major conflicts now, and the humanitarian efforts will be just off the scale. And is America still the last best hope? Do we get a lot of immigrants from Ukraine? Do we get a lot of immigrants from Israel? Do we get a lot of immigrants from Palestine? It is just a matter of humanitarian efforts have got to be great in the midst of the stock market booming, in the midst of the wealth creation. So it's very interesting world.
Yeah, absolutely. Llewellyn King, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine. It's been a very interesting time. Johnny is right. You know how hard it is for me to agree with Johnny, but I have to agree with him that there are I've been looking at some technologies, and just this morning I hosted a briefing for the U.S. Energy Association on the future of electricity and technology. We were able to get one of the data center companies represented, and we had, of course, the head of the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, the head of Edison Electric Institute. We had two rural electric cooperatives, one from Texas outside of Dallas, and one from Northern Virginia, which is heavily impacted by data centers. And at the same time, I've been looking at new technologies, which are quite astounding. I've also been looking at the role of the large tech companies in energy, and they're all trying to do something. They feel a great sense of obligation for the amount of electricity they're taking now and the amount they're going to take. One of the panelists this morning was the head of the Electric Power Supply Association, which represents what we used to call merchant power plants, and he predicts that to do a ChatGPT search takes 9 times as much electricity as it does to use an old-fashioned Google. Nobody disputed that. So the demand for electricity is huge. I noticed that Google is trying to get into it in different ways. It has financed a thing called Home Renew, which is the old Nest thermostats plus Home plus $100 million, basically coming through a fund, but basically Google money looking to help the electric supply situation. I'm also astounded and interested and excited to see that Microsoft has a purchase power contract with a fusion company, Helion. Likewise in Massachusetts, and I was just out there looking at one of probably the most advanced of the fusion to electricity companies, called Commonwealth Nuclear Services, Commonwealth Fusion Services, which is very far advanced, which has huge factory and is manufacturing its first demonstration reactor, and which should go online next year, and which they have a power purchase contract with a utility. I don't know which one. I suspect that it is National Grid because that's the local utility in Massachusetts. But these are huge developments. I think the 5 big tech companies are going to have an impact. But the backstory, less exciting from today's briefing, which was really quite seminal, was that we are in a lot of trouble. We're not going to close any more coal plants because we simply cannot get from here to there. The exponential growth in electricity demand is tremendous. Novak, which is in the northern part of Virginia, it's a distributing co-op. Their load has gone from 1,000 megawatts to 8,000 and climbing. This is an extraordinary growth rate. Rayburn Electric, north and east of Dallas, is reporting, according to this morning, we had the president on, growth, just regular growth without the presence of any data centers, up 10%, just organic growth in electricity demand. What I find encouraging is how close we may be to the beginnings, and I say that carefully, the beginnings of carbon capture. A utility out in Colorado and actually several states there called Tri-State. It's a G&T association. They are ordering gas turbines for installation in 2028, but which they plan to have a fixed carbon capture and storage within 2 or 3 years of the installation of those high-performance gas turbines. Additionally, that same outfit is planning to buy, probably from a company called in Massachusetts, which is the leader in it, an iron air battery with 100-hour capacity for discharge. So this is the future. It's happening. You've got the big central problem, but you have not one solution, but a lot of collateral solutions taking place. Whether they will achieve the desired effect or whether we're going to be very short of electricity is problematic. The head of NERC, the utility mandated by Congress projection agency, and which also has authority to punish utilities for not having adequate reserves. Jim Robb, who's probably as authoritative as anyone in the utility industry on supply and demand, says the real crunch begins next winter and basically continues till 2050. I don't know why nobody thinks beyond 2050. We all fall off the cliff then or something. Meanwhile, global warming continues to get extremely serious. We've had deaths in India and Pakistan from heat. We're going to see deaths in Europe along the Mediterranean from heat. And for all I know, we're going to see quite a lot of deaths from heat in America. It's very hard to know which deaths are directly attributable to heat. I think it was last year, Arizona said there were about 550 heat-related deaths. So we need a lot of electricity, a lot of air conditioning, and a lot of remediation of air pollution. So that's my take. Very disturbed times ahead, but also very challenging. And technology is going great guns. I would just add one thing else, which I learned this morning. The agent of 9X, which is the large data center company, said you can't actually cut the development unless you want to hinder American leadership in AI. You can't say we're not going to put in data centers because we're not going to do as much AI. That is damaging to our national position vis-a-vis particularly China, but other countries as well.
Yeah.
And also, Rudy Allen, we haven't talked about leadership, but through all of the technology,
we've got you, Johnny. We've got you, Johnny.
we're going to need a lot of good leadership in all areas.
Absolutely.
I feel-
Particularly politically, I've mentioned on this program before, globally, we have a dearth of leadership. There's very weak leadership across Europe. I think very weak leadership in America, and nobody in prospect who would offer superior leadership. We have old people shuffling through the business of government, not charging through it with passion and enthusiasm and innovation.
Well, thank you guys for those remarks. You know, I'm so lucky to remind you that our current guests are actually probably the answer to a lot of those problems. So I'm delighted to introduce to you all José, Rafael, Liccardo, CEO of Globusterra, and Daniele Fanteche, Sustainability Manager of Globusterra, as our digital roundtable guest speakers today. They're going to hang out with us for the hour. And, you know, Globusterra is a forestry and land carbon credit developer that has great experience and knowledge of international standards for controlling and certifying carbon credits. They develop an efficient technology to optimize available resources and the company's profitability. Their predictive algorithms and advanced sensors track the amount of CO2 emitted per activity in real time. And in addition, they offer all the logistical support needed to develop and implement the sustainable projects successfully. So without further ado, José, Rafael, say hello and introduce yourself, and then afterwards, Danielle, do the same.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. Super excited to be here. Well, I'm the CEO of Globusterra, which you already said develops nature-based carbon credit projects. And we specifically manage that sector of the carbon credits industry because we actually love nature. So we're not only helping industries meet their standards, but we are also mitigating nature issues. We're solving problems with related to nature. So we're helping climate change, and we're helping mitigate climate change, and we're helping mitigate the let's say the evolution of problems with the environment.
Got it. Daniel, say hello and a few words about yourself.
Hello, good evening from this part of the world. I'm in Europe, in Malta at the moment. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the opportunity of being here. I'm a colleague of José, working on the side of the technical coordination. We are developing technical competencies and teams, both internally and externally, to develop carbon credit projects in various areas of the world where we have the right to do that. And I'm looking forward for this discussion. Thank you again.
Absolutely. José, let's start real quick. Give us a perspective of, you know, what is a carbon credit? What is that about?
Carbon credit.
And explain a little bit of the financials behind it and why people are doing it and why it's so important.
Okay, well, a carbon credit is a certificate that mitigates a ton of CO2 that was emitted to the atmosphere. So what it actually does is it helps companies that they manage a business model that they cannot reduce their emissions to not go out of business, because the only way of mitigating would be to stop what they're doing. There's a way of mitigating that CO2 emission by using carbon credits, which is the absorption of that same amount of CO2 elsewhere. So what we do, we connect two companies. We connect a project that absorbs carbon credits with a company that emits it. And we join together and make things, make the process fluent.
Right. And where are currently your target geographies for this effort? Where are you working today?
We're working in Central America, Latin America, and Africa. That's where we're focusing our projects now, right now.
And then another perspective for the audience that doesn't know anything about this, when we talk about acres in the United States instead of hectares, you know, how many acres are we talking about? A project has what, 1,000 acres, 100 acres? Give us an idea.
A project normally should be above 60,000 hectares to be something that is meaningful. You can do a 30,000 hectare project, but we try to go above 60,000 hectares.
So 60,000 divided by 2.5.
No, times 2.5.
Times 2.5.
Yeah.
See, that's right. That's right.
Let me ask this question. You know, if I were doing an industry analysis, which I've done on your industry in general, and I would say that perhaps you have an information issue getting the word out. So if I'm a board meeting at a company in this area, how would they address the idea of the credits? I know that you do it real time. I guess the first question that people would ask is there a correlation between the credits and the actual stuff that goes into the atmosphere? That is, could I be a great polluter but still have carbon credits?
Sure.
And the next thing, I guess, is how do you get the information out to make it part of the ledger of everybody's mind, the ledger of everybody's company? And there's a lot of what can I say, discussion about climate change. Is it really here? The state of Louisiana passed a law that said, hey, it's okay to use oil and gas. Nothing wrong with that. And so how do you get the information out to the importance of what it is and the correlation between the absolutely polluting of the environment and the carbon credits themselves?
Okay, well, we target directly. We go to the corporations and we offer our carbon credits directly. So we do give the news. We put the news out there, but we practically target directly the corporations that actually need them, because it's a faster way of transacting with the companies.
And most of the companies that you're going after are companies that have declared a goal of carbon neutrality or zero carbon. They're all you know, they go after the Paris Accord, and they just attended COP28 and planning to go to COP29. And so, Johnny, I suspect that these are all the global Fortune 500 companies. They all have ESG goals and standards, and there are not enough projects. I would ask Jose Rafael, do you think, Jose Rafael, that there's enough projects out there for the amount of demand for all these companies to get to net zero? Or do you think that you are in a early stage bonanza of needing to develop thousands of projects? What's your take?
I think that the amount of carbon credits needed right now, especially in our market, is rising like by the second. It's going up really fast. So I'm sure we're not gonna be able to keep up with the demand in no time. I'm talking less than a year. Mm-hmm. So I do see that lack of projects starting, because the projects take time to start. And the evolution of a normal project, a proper project, takes time, and we probably won't be able to catch up with the demand.
Yeah, and again, for the audience, just to give you an idea, and I see a couple of questions already, we've tried to figure out how to answer them. You know, a typical project for Jose Rafael is 60 hectares, which is roughly 150,000 acres. So it's significant amount of land, and And is there another correlation maybe you can share, Jose Rafael? How many tons of carbon in that 150-acre project? How 150,000? How many acres? How many
It
tons of
depends.
carbon?
It depends so much on the quality of the land, where it's located, the community around it. It's like asking me how many horsepower does that car have, or a car has.
Right.
Like it's not as easy as that. It involves a lot of formulas, a lot of things, and there's no right answer for that.
Right. Now, for the audience itself, also, there are companies that you work with who are experts on certifying what you do. Is that correct?
Yes. We work with standards like Verra and there's another one called Gold Standard.
Mm-hmm.
And with those are the ones that we're practically doing our projects with, which will be afterwards the ones that will verify everything that we have done.
Right. So, Johnny, these companies are like the Moody's and the Fitches of the financial world. They come around, they verify the projects, they verify the creation of the carbon credits, and they actually put a stamp of approval on a project. And you have to pay, and the company has to pay for this, right, Danielle? You pay for this.
Yes, not only that, they also provide the methodology to be followed, so that from day one, we can build the project according to the certain standard that achieves certain objectives, and they follow up the project throughout. And there are hundreds of methodologies belonging to the different standards that apply to specific cases. That's why Jose didn't reply to the previous question about the number of credits emitted produced per hectare, because really and truly it depends on what you do on the ground. But there is a multiplier. Definitely, yes, there are different levels of multipliers that we're seeing, and different prices paid then to the car, depending on the quality. And quality
I understand, but so basically we're dealing with the market, right? When we analyze it, we're looking at a market that would allow investors and corporations, right, to really to trade carbon credits, and I guess we used to call them carbon offsets, right? So you're really talking about a market, right? And so I guess when you talk about markets, as I see things, then you ask, what's the variation between markets in different countries? And so the fundamental issue, if I'm looking as an investor, I would need some data, for example, on where are the markets, and are they rising? Are they going down? So how do you see, when you look at your business as a market where corporations and investors invest to do this, what's the best market, and where is it now? Is it up? Is it down? Or am I wrong in considering just a market like the stock market?
Well, I think that Europe is way more advanced than the US right now. As a market, it's more mature. So I would actually say that the best market right now would be the European market, just because they have been on the playground for longer. But that doesn't mean that the US market will catch up really fast.
Actually, I don't think we have a carbon market in America, do we? Do we have a carbon market in America?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I mean, is it active? Is it?
Yes. It's in Philadelphia. It's called Reggie.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're particularly looking at the voluntary, so maybe I try to address the question because it comes from the audience. Thanks for the same question. That we address the voluntary carbon market, whereby companies voluntarily self-commit to a certain sustainability policies, including financing or through directly or through purchasing the credits, this type of market. And it's not linked to the capping. The capping is the emission trading system that is a parallel market between states, countries, and works in a slightly different way. What we're talking about here is the voluntary carbon market, whereby the system, if we see it from a higher perspective, tries to instill a circular positive approach, whereby companies and industries are enticed to buy credits, meaning financing the whole market. Companies like ours try to get together expertise, competencies, financials, vision to put together sustainable application. Because John, your previous question about the type of market, rather than geographically, I think that we should think quality-wise. If a project in Kenya, project in Mexico or Peru is of high quality, meaning that it engages local communities positively, it has a solid calculation for the delta between the emissions, saved, additionality, the additional emissions saved, thanks to the project, well, that project definitely will have a higher premium. Will pay a higher premium to a company or to a buyer from whichever part of the world. So in this sense, the market is very global.
Yes, and your job is to make sure that as we do with financial markets, that everything's on the open up, the process has been followed, the method has been followed, and so therefore you're getting a great credit, getting a great product. Is that right? Yeah, I understand
Exactly.
it. Well,
That's right.
They have always fascinated me because of the volunteer nature of that market, and I would think that as the quality becomes better and people have better confidence, just like in any other market, then you would see a much more robust market, if you will.
I can't say that I have great expertise in this, but I do know that the veracity of the offsets is a serious problem. And there have been many instances where people have been accused and sometimes been quite guilty of greenwashing.
Sure.
Yes.
And greenwashing remains a great and sensitive subject. There also is a lot of subjectivity about whether you can really trade off forests against emissions. For example, the Drax plant in Britain, which is a very large wood burning utility, it's several thousand megawatts. It's the largest thermal power plant of its kind in Britain, and it burns wood chips imported from the US. Is that a net gain? The theory being, of course, that because the trees are carbon subtractors from the atmosphere, but there are consequences. We saw in Scotland, for example, reforestation had its own problems because when you plant trees on a massive scale, you're not producing the forest that was there, you're producing a farm, and that has its own consequences. These are my questions, basically. How do you verify, and how can the purchaser be confident of the verification of the offset? And secondly, what are the long-term consequences of planting an enormous number of trees, increasing, obviously, in some places, fire hazard, which will put a lot of carbon into the air, that sort of thing. There's been a lot of doubt that I have heard about the effectiveness of carbon credits because of some of these open issues, especially whether you can certify the offset and whether the offset itself is really as beneficial as it would appear to be.
Who wants to take that one?
Well, I'll take part of it, and Danielle can take the part of it too.
Sure.
First of all, well, there's technology right now that is helping monitor that. We have some insight monitoring that is constantly monitoring what's happening in the area. That helps a lot to give veracity to what the project is actually achieving. The other things that when you talk about additionalities, it's not only, let's say, you reforest. Yes, you reforest, but you're improving the community around, you're improving the ecosystem around. There could be additionalities that are not only absorption of CO2, it could be the regaining of a species that had been lost in that area and now it's coming back. That is an additionality too that helps the project. So you can not only measure the CO2 absorption, you have to take into account other things that the project also helps achieve.
You're right.
That's one part. I don't know, Daniele, if you can,
complete what Jose was saying. We have, first of all, what we are specializing in is nature-based solutions, meaning all the different type of projects, including afforestation, that fall under this category, which include also avoid degradation, avoid logging, and some other sub-activities. We look at the holistic part of it. So a project might not necessarily be all the 160,000 acres of one type of solution. We look at the combination to create value, to create sustainable carbon units for a long period. Because another point that you were fairly making is the one on the duration of what we do. In fact, last summer, there was a big, I would say, discussion in the market, in the sector, about the issue of non-permanence. I mean, how long must a project stay in place and produce? Because the key standard, Verra, has raised this level to a minimum of 60 years for the duration and the commitment, in terms of commitment from all parties involved to undertake the initiatives. This is a further guarantee that what is produced is not only proven from a scientific perspective that is actually contributing to the emission reduction, but it's also durable over time.
Yes, I think what you're saying, in other words, is that the carbon markets really turn CO2 into a product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you give it a price.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give it a
depending
price,
on the quality,
it's like
depending
a
on the
derivative.
quality, it's a higher price.
And
Yeah,
if
when you give it a price, it's like a derivative.
yeah,
And then you can buy and sell it. I think that is an interesting market-based solution where you take the CO2 and you create it and give it a price, and then you sell it.
And then what is the range of that price, Jose or Danielle? Give me the low end and give me the
Daniel.
high end of that price of carbon.
Well, super low quality projects could be a $1 per carbon credit, even less. And high quality projects should be around 12 on our nature-based projects, around 12. At one point it was like at 18, but right now it's around 12.
Okay.
I have another question about on your website. You talked about, and you've mentioned it before, that your solution is a natural solution. And can you explain the difference between a natural solution and a unnatural solution? I know you're talking about in the renewable energy world. I guess you're talking about methane and whatever it might be. But your value proposition is that you're natural. You're one with the earth. Your solution is one with the earth. And just what does that mean for for our audience?
it means
Oh,
that.
there's many times. Oh, Daniele, if you want to take that one.
Sorry, thank you for the question. It means that the nature is the key for the solutions that we're giving. So the solutions are based on natural approaches, be it through increasing the biodiversity in an area, or avoiding the degradation of certain plant species that are able to capture a high amount of CO2. All that is the nature base that we're talking about. Then obviously we use in the process some technology where applicable as required in order especially to calculate exactly the amount of carbon produced and the effects on the ground. But the solution is to the emission control is based on nature.
Okay.
Adding to that, John, what you were asking, that the unnatural solution would be, let's say, a plant that absorbs through filters or chemically the CO2 from the atmosphere. So those are different types of projects. There's some others, carbon credits that are emitted by the reduction of emissions. Like, I used to do this way, but I'll change my way of doing it, and now I'll reduce my emissions for this amount. Well, I get a credit for that.
Yes. And do you find
So
your
that's
value
another way
proposition?
of producing them.
Yes, and you find your value proposition of natural much better than the other value proposition of straining or non-natural in terms of your sales?
Yes, because not only are you solving a problem, you are also preserving the nature per se. So it's like
Okay.
I'll leave a legacy for many generations where they can actually go and enjoy that land because of this.
Okay.
Tell me, where is your company headquartered?
We're headquartered in well, one of our headquarters is in Italy. We're based in UK, and we have another headquarter in Miami.
Is there any particular kind of tree, not the specific tree, but the class of tree that you plant?
For reforesting?
Yes.
It depends on the area. We just plant. We have to plant trees that are not that are endemic from the place. So we cannot be planting a tree that is not from that specific area.
And how do you overcome? How do
the
you overcome if you're going to restore the natural habitat which once existed there? How do you do that with, I assume, mechanical planting? You're not going to go out and plant one tree here and three there, as you might find them in nature. It's got to be rather regimented. And AES, the big American utility, was founded on the basis of planting trees to compensate. A man called Roger Sand founded it. It's a very large international company now, but they ran into considerable difficulties in trying to replicate the environment into which they were introducing the trees without basically putting in a farm and calling it a forest. A farm is not a forest.
Normally, those projects involve replanting around the outskirts of an already settled forest so that it can actually grow in the same way. But it always depends on the project and the land that we're targeting. It varies a lot, but normally it's that way. We target the outskirts of a forest.
Do you have any systems for carbon capture besides forestry, besides using trees?
Well, part of our project is not replanting; it is preserving what it already exists there. So that's another way of harvesting carbon credits.
Which, of course, this is going to lead to the discussion in the rainforest. What is your relationship to the rainforest in Central America, say in Africa, etc.?
Yeah, well, part of the preservation efforts that we do are regarding rainforest. Most of them are regarding rainforest, and what we target is illegal logging or even legal logging that can be evaded by telling them, like, hey, you can be part of this project. You don't have to cut those trees and make a living out of it anyways.
How do you police the projects? I mean, you're talking about very large land areas scattered across poor parts of the world. So policing must be a problem.
Well, we have carbon contractors that are locals from those areas, and they co-manage with us the projects.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
It is. I find the solution, because this is a real interesting problem that we have. And I find that what you're doing is just so interesting. I think it has the possibility to grow. But let me just ask you this. When you look at your industry, tell me about the technologies that's driving your industry. You know, when I read on your website that you verify. I mean, you're the person who would say that this is okay to buy this stock. tell me about the technologies that's driving your industry now and that would drive it in the future. Because whoever came up with the idea, I guess I got it in the 1970s, I can't remember, to solve this problem in this way, it was just a very, very unique solution to an ugly, raw problem. So how does technology affect your business? When I say technology, Daniel, I mean the ability to measure, the ability to do it in real time, to let people see it in real time. Will AI have a role in what you do? What's your software issues that you have? And those kind of things. What's the new technologies that will help your industry?
AI will be in everything, not only in what we do. It's going to be in every corporation and every business in the world. So,
well, actually,
that
John
part I'm not
Butler's
excited about because it's given.
Yeah, John Butler's really playing golf. I am AI. I just want to let you know that. Yeah, I'm just interested in because it's like Llewellyn said, it's a solution. You had to have a lot of interesting ideas to come up with this solution for credits.
Yeah.
So
one of them is a blockchain. Blockchain will make all the transactions easier, will make it more reliable. It will evade any double counting of the carbon credits. So it will make the market more robust, and that will definitely change the industry. That's one of them. That is one of the most important ones.
And that's basically a ledger, so we can see it. But let's say that if Llewellyn has his cell phone, and he's traveling to London, can he pull it up and look at where the carbon credits are, who carbon credits that are needed, the instant gratification of communication? Do you have any technologies like that in addition to the ledger, which blockchain basically is? It allows you to put everything down where everybody else can see it, right?
The interesting thing is that a normal person will be able to transact those carbon credits. Let's say somebody says like, oh, I'm taking this trip, I'm going to China or I'm going to Europe, and I'm gonna spend this amount of CO2. I'll emit this amount of CO2s because of my travel, and I want to mitigate it myself. I don't want the company to do it for me. I just want to sleep well that night and say I didn't emit that amount of carbon credits. I'll just buy it myself. And with blockchain, you'll be able to do that. Buy it to us directly. You get a discount.
Yeah. So in addition to you going to the companies, I'm saying, because when I think of a stock, I think, well, anybody can buy it, right? And Andrea said, well, you know, the companies, that's because of the pressure that's putting on them. But there are people who would say, hey, I would like to get involved in this also. That's why I was asking about the technology. Go ahead, Llewellyn. I'm sorry.
So I find
Do
real
ask me
quick.
a question?
Hold on, Llewellyn. Well, so guys, real quick for the audience and everybody. So this industry is trying to mitigate the fact that we roughly generate some 40 billion metric tons of CO2 that we need to manage. And so this is the net zero goal by 2050, whatever it is. And that translates, Johnny, into roughly $500 billion of market that needs to emerge on an annual basis.
Wow.
$500 billion of a new economy. That's what these guys are after. This is what they're trying to industrialize, right? It's early days. It's been going on for a while, but it's still early days. So I'm curious, Jose, Rafael, and Danielle, you know, how do you feel about the prospects of Globusterra becoming the next Google or whatever you guys are going to be? You told me that demand is very high. I suspect there's a lot of companies working on this space. What makes you different, and why should anybody listening be calling you afterwards?
Okay, I will be humble with my expectations. If I manage to be like Google, I will really love it. But I'm not gonna aim that high. I expect to do good to the world as those big corporations for sure. But I don't really know I hope I'm wrong by aiming lower.
Okay. And why should people call you guys? What is it that said makes you different? What is the difference of a Globusterra versus anybody else?
We provide very high quality carbon credits due to our project nature.
Mm-hmm.
If I were a polluting company, say in Pittsburgh, USA, and I wanted credits, I felt really bad about the situation, and I was under pressure probably from the government. How would I go about purchasing? Where would I find? Is there a central market I would go to as I would purchase stock, or would I contact you personally, directly?
Contact us directly. Yes.
Directly. So if, for example, I have a steel mill and I'm concerned about and I want to buy credits, I would get in touch with you directly and
you can write to us at CEO at globusterra.com or info@globusterra.com.
Do you have any feeling that this may, that this may cause some companies to get lazy rather than improving their technology? They'll say, we just buy carbon credits. Do you think that's likely to happen? Do you think that's a danger?
I think it's proper that it happens because everybody has their line of business. You cannot control everything. You cannot make cars and be worried about planting trees.
Are you selling credits?
The experts do their part and you continue doing your expertise.
Electric utilities are large producers of carbon. Are you selling credits to them?
Not now, but I'm happy to.
What about in Europe? You said the market was more mature and you're more advanced in Europe. I was wondering what the reception of the utility industry in Europe is, which is very environmentally conscious, more so probably than it is in the United States, although I'm not sure that's quite true.
Yes, we have been in talks, and we cannot say names because we have signed some NDAs, but we have been in talks with some companies, a utility company in Switzerland and Germany.
Which country do you find the most receptive to buying carbon? Switzerland, Germany, Italy, whereabouts?
Germany is one of the top.
Yeah. Germany is very conservative because it has a large green movement. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was listening to the discussion, and Llewellyn said, "Do I call you?" It just brings out that it's voluntarily, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a volunteer, and it's going to depend upon in the future the companies looking at the quality of what you do, the quality of the credits themselves, just like any other stock. So, unless, of course, we force companies to do that, and I don't see that happening in America. But the volunteer nature of the program means that you guys are in an excellent position to create a brand, a reputation, a brand that would pull companies to you and say, your company is the place you go for carbon credits.
That's our short and long-term goal.
That is that's right. So you're doing it on the basis of brand, and you do it on the basis of the quality of how you evaluate the credits themselves. Just as Michael Dell was putting computers together with no, with no kind of patent, he made a reputation of brand because he was so good. So my question is, given that, I'm going to go back to Andrea's question. Why don't you see yourself as a Google? You can be bigger.
We concentrate in doing things well, and then the results will speak for themselves. Like, yeah, that's how I'm in life. I just do everything well and don't expect a result, because the result should be good.
That's a good way to think about it, because when you look at where you are now, the volunteer nature, and the fact that companies will be looking for credits in the future, or trading, right, credits in the future, I see a bright future for you guys, especially when you put it on. Yeah, and especially if the companies, like the question just came up, great companies that have a target, as Andrea said earlier, for doing the quote right thing, if they believe in climate change.
It's a long list, Johnny. It's a long
It's a
list.
long list. Yes.
And,
Right.
and I don't think that the carbon credit market is $500 billion annually yet. And wouldn't you, as our great business model economy disruptor statistician, say, this is another huge economic market that is about to explode here, Johnny?
I think so. And I think it's going to explode because the quality. Again, you control the quality, and it's the reputation that you put
Mhm.
out there that would draw the long list of companies to you. And
Right.
I see big things for you in the future, because remember, I would say this: most people in the world have really not sit down to think about carbon credits.
Mhm.
A very abstract concept.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I think I see big things for you guys in the future, and it's understanding and tying what you do to absolute quality, right? And let quality run the future.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Absolutely. So I just published several things to share with everybody, but Forbes issued a list of the top companies that are committed to getting this, and it's, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, whatever you want to call it. It's everybody. It's a gigantic. So, in parting thoughts, I'm looking at the time here, guys, and I wish I was in Malta in Europe, relaxing. It's really hot here, maybe as hot as it is in Miami. What's in front of Globusterra the next 6 months, other than speaking at the Digital 360 Summit?
Well, we want to grow our portfolio for sure. We're getting into the US market right now. Still NDAs, can't talk about it, but we're getting in fast, and we're gonna spread out through the country. That's our aim for the next 6 months.
And we aim at having further projects registered by around mid-2025. Have some of the largest projects we're developing now that will be starting producing the first credits.
Right.
From 25.
So Llewellyn, the way to think about it from my point of view is Globusterra is a company focused on natural solutions, from forest answers to carbon credit, which means they're going to preserve any forest out there. And if you're not getting anything on the forest that you own for carbon credits, you partner with Globusterra, and now you will be getting the benefit of the fact that you're already helping the earth, but you're committing to preserving it for a long period of time. Seems like
and
a reasonable
most
thing.
of the activities that are done on those lands can continue to be done. It's just that it has to comply with part of the project, and they still own the land. There's no transference of property or nothing like that. It's just, let's say, like an abstract concept. We own the air on that land, but not the land.
Got it.
And we help producing high quality projects that contribute to sustainability and that generate positive effects for the environment, and in return, quality credits for all the stakeholders involved and an extra income for companies or landowners.
Sure. And in my list that I posted of the biggest companies, you know, you got airlines and Steamex and, you know, auto companies. And so basically, you know, all these companies are large polluters, right? So any
Interesting.
final thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I think we only have one world. We have one Earth.
Well, I couldn't
That says
agree
it all.
more.
We don't want it to go
I couldn't
to
agree
hell.
more. I would think that managing these assets would be quite a challenge. I think that's what AES, the big American utility, which started out with for every pound of carbon that went into the air, they were going to plant X number of trees, mostly somewhere in Latin America. But I believe they abandoned that they found it was unworkable. But I'm not certain of it. But AES was totally founded on trees for carbon concept by a man who's still alive, but he's very elderly now. I worked with him when he was in the government. I knew him well, and he was a dreamer who made the dream come true. I'm inclined to think that you've got to look at your resources and see where they balance out and where you get the biggest bang for the buck. And I don't know is the answer. But tell me before we go, what's the financial value of your company? Are you doing 10 million, 5 million, 100 million?
The financial value right now of the company per se?
Yeah. What's the turnover?
He wants you to tell him how much you're selling.
Right now, we're still not selling the first carbon credit.
Oh, okay. So it's very much a startup. Well, good luck to you. Good luck.
Thank you. But to respond to the first comment that you made regarding the planting of the trees and the not continuing the project afterwards, the beauty of this project is that it fits itself. So every year we emit carbon credits, we sell the carbon credits. Part of the money, most of that money, goes back into the project and maintains the forest and the project itself. So that what happened to in your story where they planted the trees and then that disappeared, this will not happen because there will not be a project if there's not a continuation of the cycle of putting back money in to maintain that project happening. So this is a solution that actually solves that problem that you had, that you showed us there in that you just saw.
Thank you.
Got it. All right, guys, final thoughts. Jose, Rafael, Daniele, any final thoughts? Anything we should go and see? Are you raising any money right now? You can take money from Llewellyn. Llewellyn has billions of dollars.
It's the large performance fee I get for appearing on shows like this.
At the moment,
yes, we're actively looking for it could be a partnership or corporations that want that have more or less the same values that can join with us in some of the projects and fund part of the projects.
Okay, great. Daniele?
At the moment, we are focusing on acquiring more land, meaning extending our portfolio of clients and starting off with the registration. And we're very much concentrated on that. And at the same time, as we develop on different sides of the world, different type of projects, we look at different financial solutions. In some cases, we are financing them with the landowners. In other cases, we go for venture capital. We are definitely active on all fronts at the moment.
Sure. Well, thank you for being with us today. Fascinating conversation. I posted plenty of data for those listening. We had a great audience today, some interesting questions. I want to say thank you very much to David Katz, who's an old friend. And we'll stay in touch. We'll have you back. Let's have go away from listening to our own Johnny Sibley Butler.
Well, it's all going to pot. whether we like it or not. As far as I can tell, the world's going to hell, and we sure gonna miss it a lot. Get all the credits in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't hit the spot. I got $100 bill, but you can keep your bill because it's all going to die. That cat come back a guy in the box. Must think bad as a rock. Keeps reading me the news, kicking off my shoes, and he's scaring me out of my socks. I tell you what, baby, I'm no red-headed stranger. Baby, let me tell you what. Yes, go will. Here's the deal, baby. It's all
Woo!
okay.
Bravo.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you very much.
Okay, y'all take care. Stay cool. Stay cool. All righty.
Hey, guys, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.